My name is Bruno. I'm an associate at MCROM Architects here in Dublin. I'm a senior architect by study. I studied architecture, but during the pandemic, as many people kind of pivoted to technology, I did a master's in computational design and AI in Barcelona during the pandemic. That exposed me to AI for the first time. That was before ChatGPT was famous, and since then, everyone, like I remember in the masters, everyone just pivoted towards AI like immediately. Everyone was super curious about it, and from that moment onwards, I'm not involved in project work anymore. I've been solving problems for architectural firms mostly, a little bit of engineering, and working with AI. So today I'm going to speak about AI agents, and before that, I just want you to understand what the size of the problem we're dealing with, and I call it the 98% problem. So it's quite a big number. It's a huge systemic issue that we have in the construction industry, which basically means that 98% of our mega projects are either delayed and have cost overruns and are like systemic failure within it. That means that the actual projects that build our cities, the stadiums, the hospitals, like the Children's Hospital, for example, here in Ireland, are by default late and over budget, right? So it's a huge problem. Just let that sink in for a moment, 98%. So that means that by default, your project's going to be late and over budget, right? So what's going on here? Why is it so bad? So it's actually not bad luck. A lot of the problem is is caused by poor communication, 32%, and a lot of the people working in these projects spend 35% of their time doing non-productive work. So that means looking for information, dealing with meetings, taking notes, whatever you want to call it, right? And so what's the big solution, right? And that's where AI comes in. Everyone's expecting AI to kind of fix this, right? AI looks amazing, very promising. So that's where things get really interesting because everyone is super keen on AI. 82% of people, this is a study done by the Financial Times, believe that AI will transform everything, right? But at the same time, 78% of those people think that it's going to happen very quickly. And the reality is that 80% of the people testing AI are not getting any return from AI. So I was chatting over lunch with Colin, right? Yeah. And we were talking about this. Like everyone's super pumped about AI and thinking it's going to do so much, but in the end, companies are not finding the ROI behind AI because the real implementation is not there. And we were discussing like for an industry like software development, it's very clear. AI will probably replace a lot of people. It's happening already. But for real life industries like construction, that's not that clear, right? So it's taking a while for things to actually change. And you'll find that the real villain is actually not the technology. It's actually proving the return on investment. So I was doing a bit of consulting before I started working full time, and everyone's super worried about AI. All the directors that I dealt with, they were like, what's going to happen with our jobs? What's going to happen with my business? How do I future-proof myself, right? And so they start making this, they allocate a little bit of research funds, right? Especially architectural firms, they don't have much money for research. The fees are so tight that they're struggling to kind of keep their jobs. And on top of that, they have to find money to find a research team. Like I was talking to Bruno, like she has 2 hours to do research on AI a week. I mean, how is that going to make a difference, And then they do these little cool experiments, these pilot projects that they go nowhere because they are like, they don't have enough resources to make an impact and they got shelved before they even hit the ground in something meaningful, right? So this is where things start getting a bit more interesting because we are starting to hear about AI agents, right? I'm sure everyone knows about AI agents. I was speaking about AI agents 1 year ago at the BIM Gathering, and it was new at the time. But now everyone knows about AI agents. Actually, I use this software called Motion, and I got an email last week from Motion saying, now we have AI agents. So everything is AI agents now, right? It's like the buzzword. So the big difference between AI agent is not a tool, it's actually action. Is the best way to think about it is like a digital colleague. So it understands the environment, it makes decisions, picking up different tools, and takes action, right? Delivers a product. That's the theory behind it, right? That's how it's meant to work. So AI agents just work in this 4-step process, right? So you give an AI agent a prompt, like pretty much like ChatGPT, you can give a prompt, and the AI agent goes and discovers what tools it has access to, right? And this has to be done via APIs and permission-based protocols, but they may have access to your emails, may have access to Excel, may have access to a browser. Yeah? It depends on what you can give permission to. And then it executes. So the AI agent thinks, oh, I have these tools, I can do this for that, right? And eventually responds. So this whole process obviously might take hours. It's not like quick, but that's the structure of how an AI agent works. And the magic behind this is something called Model Context Protocol, which is short for MCP. MCP was developed by Anthropic, which is the OpenAI competitor. And curiously enough, OpenAI adopted MCP like 2 months ago. So it's kind of becoming like the USB for AI, right? So what MCP does is API protocol that enables AI agents to operate software on your behalf, right? You have heard of Atlas? Does anyone heard of Atlas yet? Atlas? Oh, yeah? Well, just maybe one. Atlas is a browser, AI agent browser by OpenAI, right? So what it does, it gets you permission to use your credit cards, your Amazon account, your Tesco, whatever you want to call it, and you can give a request to, order the ingredients for a dinner for my parents tomorrow morning, and I need, more or less, this is the menu, get it from Tesco. And then it goes to Tesco website, adds the things to the cart, charges your credit card, and then you don't have to do much about it, right? Yeah, sounds a bit, I personally, I think it's overreaching. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that, but that's the concept, right? And this is going to become mainstream in, I think, pretty soon. Like by this time next year, everyone's going to be using it. So, before I go into that, MCP is what makes this happen, right? MCP is the protocol that connects the GPTs that we're hearing about with the software out there, a browser, piece of software, Revit. I'm going to speak about that in a moment. So what's the playbook for this, right? So you can have any type of agents. An agent basically is defined by the tools it has access to, right? So you can have an agent that tracks your bank account. You can have an agent that checks your Primavera software. You can have a safety agent like I was listening to Evercam next door, that they monitor PPE using computer vision. So that's safety agent, But the key part, and I think this is where many companies just struggle with, is the implementation of this technology, right? I'm going to speak about my own case in a moment. But after doing a lot of research and consultancy for other firms, I realized that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? If firms expect the results like in 3 months, what can you do in 3 months? And you kind of give a proposal, but in 3 months, nothing's going to change. Not because of technology, because of the people, People are used to be working in certain ways, and you cannot change that in 3 months. So what I propose as a solution is have a foundation phase. So basically, look for your quick wins in your industry. I'm talking about architecture, but probably there's engineering and so on. So look for a quick win for AI, low-hanging fruit. Get it out there. Make some impact. If that works, phase 1 works, that can take maybe 6 months, scale it to a real project. Take that quick win, maybe make it a bit bigger, and run it in a real project. And if that works, 1 year and a half, you move to the culture phase, which is the most challenging part. It's actually helping people to understand AI. So in the company I'm working for, we kind of have this approach to kind of sandbox AI, right? So we are testing AI in a controlled environment in non-critical projects. We're using it to see what it can do. Sometimes we get bad results. Sometimes we get something useful. I would say 20% of the time we get something useful. And then we try to run it on a project that maybe is not under pressure or has a little bit of leeway. And if that works, then we try to kind of expand it to the rest of the company. We haven't got there yet. So we've been working phase 1 and phase 2 mostly for the last year and a half. And the fact is, what was I going to say with this? The fact is, this one is scary for a lot of people. I started
phase 2?
Phase 3, yeah.
Phase 3.
Everyone's super worried about AI, especially in the workplace. You know, when I'm sure you heard the news, Amazon retrenching 14,000 people. 14,000 people. And I think it's AI driven. I mean, they're trying to cut costs, and suddenly they realize that these AI systems can do a lot of the work that other people were doing. Amazon officially says, no, it's not AI, we're just restructuring, we're becoming more efficient. Yeah, but how are you becoming more efficient? You know? So everyone's scared. In the office, everyone asks me, so what's going to happen to my job in a few years? And I don't really have an answer. But the fact is, the best way to anticipate the future is to get involved in it. So we're trying to have these meetings once a month where we get everyone together and talk about what we're doing in the research team to get everyone like thinking about it and maybe reduce a bit the fear that they have of getting replaced, right? So anyway, MCP and Revit. This is I'm not sure how much time I have, but
No, it's time.
yeah, all right. So we're trying to move. AI is changing the ballgame for software companies. I know I've been working with Autodesk for 20 plus years, and I get personally very upset with them because their software is poor for the resources they have, and they charge an incredible amount of money for the licensing. It's extortion, you know. I mean, at the firm we pay software-wise per seat an excess of 10,000 euros a year. Just software for Autodesk for one person. How crazy is that? That's ridiculous. That's nowhere near the value of the software you're getting. But anyway, that's another topic. But that's going to change. AI is going to break that monopoly, and I'm going to tell you how. So we're used to this old way of Revit, you know, being a closed environment. You cannot even downgrade a project, you know. Once you upgrade a Revit model to the new version, that's it, yeah. And they force you to upgrade because they stop the downloads of the previous version. So if you try to get Revit 2020 now, you can't, you know. You had to get, I think, Revit 2022 or something like that. But there's a new way coming, and this is what we're experimenting to. So suddenly you have these AI agents that can operate big chunks of data and answer questions about that data with simple queries, natural language. So what we're doing is we're trying to break that monopoly by taking that Revit model, taking the data, because it's a database. At the end of the day, a Revit model is a database. You take that data out of the contained environment, and then you can do whatever you want. You're the owner of that data. And previously, it was very difficult to manage that data because we didn't have AI. But now you have a ChatGPT that can parse through data like no one's business. You know, in 10 seconds, you can have an answer. And I compare this to the printing press. So before the printing press, you had to go to the priest for information, you know, like the Book of Kells. I mean, why is the Book of Kells so valuable? Because it was a piece of art. I mean, writing books in those years, it was just like handwriting and, you know, like spend years reproducing the Bible, right? And who had access to that? So the monks in the abbey, you know, if you wanted to know what the Gospel of Luke was about, you had to go to the abbey and ask the guy, hey, can you tell me the story of Luke, you know, because there were no Bibles available. But then Gutenberg came on and the press was released and suddenly everyone had a Bible. So yeah, the Book of Kells is still there as a piece of art, but it's no longer the center of information, right? I feel like this is an analogy to what's going to happen to the software companies like Autodesk with AI. So suddenly everyone's going to break free. If you have access to data without complex tools, then it's your data. You can query that data the way you want. So we're using N8N, which is an agent protocol to operate this data, and ChatGPT is a combination. So we asked ChatGPT to draft a script that compiles within N8 and gives permission to N8 to access Revit on your behalf and extract the data, which is basically a database. And then once you have the data, you can ask questions to your data. Sorry. So you don't need code, you just need ChatGPT or Cloud or something like that, and you can get instant answers, right? And you don't need a license. Well, you probably need a license if you're producing the Revit model, but if you're the owner or the consultant that needs some answers of, how many doors do we actually have in this model, you can just ask ChatGPT to browse that data lake, which is the Revit model, and give you an answer, right? I don't think this is working. So key advantages are very obvious. You don't need code because ChatGPT is doing the code for you. It's completely free. N8 has a fee, but it's compared to Autodesk, it's nothing. It's secure and local because that database is owned by you. It's on your local machine. And you can do it as many times as you want. Like this data extraction might take maybe 10 minutes. And you receive a model every few weeks. That's quick. You can do it as many times as you want. So now that you can imagine being able to talk to your Revit model. So what will you ask? A Revit model or engineering project, or you can ask how many cubic meters of concrete you have, or how many windows you have, or how can you structure the circulation better. So what is my suggestion to build in the future, right, with AI? So establish a clear roadmap. I think connect AI to real business goals. I think that's that low-hanging fruit I was speaking about. So make it very, very clear, right? Adopt incremental value. So target the projects where you can have the biggest impact, so you can have some momentum going, Once you have a win with AI in a project, it's very easy to sell it to whoever is calling the shots and get more use cases for that. You always need a human, obviously. That's your experts, they always need to be in control because there's always hiccups. So maybe the data gets corrupted or something. So you always need like an expert eye to, kind of make sense if what came out actually makes sense, right? You need a robust data infrastructure. I think that's coming with AI as well. And obviously, this is the most important one: is upskill your workforce. Right? So yeah, I think that's what I had for today. You can find me in LinkedIn, and if you have you want to talk further, I love talking to people. And yeah, thank you very much.